Guys, this is Tamara coming back at you with another video. I want to talk a little bit about delusions. Last week we talked a bit about what a delusion and what a hallucination is, and so I want to spend this time talking specifically about 10 ways that you can deal with somebody who has delusions. And I think that this is a timely and very important subject because around this time of the year, right after the holiday, a lot of people deal with depression, and sometimes they become very delusional and suspicious and paranoid. Most of the time it's stress. The other times, at least among my clients, it's depression or it's severe bipolar symptoms coming up again. So I think this is going to be very interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to give you 10 ways to deal with somebody who has delusions. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So one way that I think dealing with somebody with delusions, one way that I think you should kind of try to maneuver the situation or deal with them is by paying attention to the emotions and getting rid of your consciousness or your focus on the content. Push that to the back, right? We know, those of us who are maybe more sturdy emotionally and psychologically, we understand that delusions typically are not true. And so therefore I think it's important to focus on the emotions and not necessarily the content of the delusion. So push the content of the delusion to the back and focus on the emotions. You will find that individuals who are delusional, they tend to have a lot of emotions wrapped in their firm belief. Let me just also define what a delusion is. I think that might be helpful before we go on. A delusion is a strong belief held to be true, despite evidence to the contrary, right? It gives the person convictions. They feel like if they don't believe this particular thing, something bad is going to happen. Or they might get to a place where they start saying, you don't get it, I get it, I'm chosen, I understand this information, you just don't, right? So it's a firm belief held to be true despite evidence to the contrary. Now, there are some people who believe that religious people are delusional, and I beg to differ with that, and here's why. Because one individual who believes something that's not true really doesn't stand up against millions of people who also believe one particular thought or belief. So, I think, and I might address this at a later time, but I think we need to be a little bit careful as to how we see delusions, because we don't want to categorize everybody as delusional just because we don't get what they get. But when you have an individual in your life that is delusional and they believe things that just simply aren't true, that's a delusion. Okay, let's keep moving with the tips. All right, so the next tip is discuss the way that you see the delusion, right? So let's say your loved one or your friend or your coworker is delusional and they believe that you've been stealing something from them for 15 years. There's no way to really dispel that belief. You really do wish that your coworker or your friend or your family member didn't see you this way enough to accuse you. I think that's the time to sit down with your friend and say, look, I don't know what's going on, or sit down with your coworker or your family member and say, look, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like you're accusing me, and I feel like you've been accusing me for a while now. I don't know what to do to help make things better, but I promise you I did not do anything to harm you. I would never do that to you, right? So kind of discuss the way that you see things, help them understand that you're well aware of what they're doing, help them understand that you cannot fall for their way of viewing things. Help them understand that you are well aware of the fact that something's very wrong because you haven't done anything to them. Okay, so express the way that you see the situation. You can also say empathic things like, I know this is hard for you. I really wish that I can make things better, but I don't know what to do right now. Let me know how I can help or make things better, right? Be sensitive, be compassionate. The next thing is express your concern. So if you have a loved one who really is struggling with delusions and they are getting into trouble, or they're starting to look very stressed or overwhelmed, I think it's okay to express your concern. I think it's okay to say, I'm really worried about you. I wish there was something that I could do to help. Please reach out to me. Don't be ashamed to reach out for help, right? So express your concern. I'm really afraid. I'm really worried that this is taking its toll on you, And I think this might be the time to do the next tip that I'm going to give you, and that is to offer to go to therapy with this person. You can say something like, express your concern. You can say something like, I'm really worried about you. I wish there was a way that I can help. And then do the next thing. do you think you'd be willing to go to therapy with me? I feel like I need it. I don't know about you. I feel like I need tips on how to cope with this reality, right? Or tips to cope with this thing that's happening, right? So express your concern and then offer to go to therapy with the individual. It might make them feel less like you're trying to put them in therapy because they have a problem, right? If you go with them, it looks more like a team effort. The next tip is ask why they see the situation the way that they see it, right? Become a student. The moment you become a dictator, the moment you become somebody who shuts them down immediately, the moment you become somebody who just doesn't get it, they're gonna push you away. Not only are they gonna push you away, but they're gonna see you as the enemy. You don't want that, right? So you don't want to reinforce and confirm the delusion, but you also don't want to come against it too harshly, because that's when you lose the person. So ask them why they're seeing something the way that they're seeing it, and then listen, right? Just listen. You don't have to correct it. You don't have to point it out. You don't have to point out inconsistencies. You can just simply listen. And you want to be careful how you listen too, because you don't want to make it look like, oh, geez, I wish you would stop talking about this, right? You want to listen, nod, go along. But if they say something that's really off the wall, you can just be like, I see, right? So, there's a way to deal with that without confirming the delusion and then dispelling it in a way that makes the other person, the delusional person, defensive. So, all right, the next thing is avoid getting frustrated and expressing it. There's really no need to do that. I know you're probably frustrated. You're probably going to get agitated because you know this delusion is not correct. But the best way to deal with that is to just avoid it. Don't let them see it's frustrating you. The moment you do, you're going to be put on the enemy list, and then you're really not going to be able to help them. So the last thing you want to do is get frustrated, at least to a place where they see it, and then express that to them. You don't want to do that. The other thing is research thinking errors. Thinking errors are false beliefs held to be true, and basically they're skewed and they're based on emotions and sometimes mood dependent, meaning that if you're depressed, you automatically think more negative. Thinking errors, I would Google thinking errors or cognitive distortions and learn a little bit about that, because I think for individuals who are delusional, they also struggle with thinking errors or cognitive distortions. I encourage you to look that up. Last but not least, guys, model engagement in reality testing. 4 years ago, I had a young man at the age of 14. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia at 14 years of age, which is extraordinarily rare. And he believed things that were not true. Not only did he believe things that were not true, but he also struggled with challenging their truth. So what I mean by that is he had a very hard time reality testing. Like, is this really true? Could this be true? Does this really make sense? Could somebody else challenge that? Does somebody else believe that, or is it just me? He couldn't do that process. And a lot of individuals who have delusions can't do that process either. They automatically accept what they believe, and that's that. So I encourage you to model that. When you're in their presence and they're watching you or they're looking at you, model the fact that I'm going to flip this situation and this idea around a couple of times until I'm sure that it actually makes sense, right? So that is 10 ways that you can deal with individuals who have delusions. I ask guys that you would hit the thumbs up button when you do that. That makes this video available to other people who may benefit from this subject. If you hit the bell on the side of the video as well, it allows you to get alerts for when I publish new videos, which is every Friday afternoon, sometimes evening time, but just know that every Friday there's going to be a new video posted. You can actually go to my blog if you want to learn more about this. I've written plenty of articles about delusions and hallucinations on blogs.psychcentral.com/caregivers. All this information will be at the end of the video. So thanks so much, guys, for being with me, and as always, I wish you well, and I'll see you real soon.